Good afternoon, everybody. You hear me well? Okay, it's the last presentation of the day. So I'm going to change the format a bit. The information we received today was very pertinent, very interesting. Today I'm going to give you the story of a company, a small, medium-sized company from Canada in Quebec, which dared to change their ways after 90 years of working in a certain model to develop a new market and to concentrate their efforts in developing a Canadian market. The title of my presentation is Focus on Canada, or Focus on the Canadian Market. Why is that so? It's because it's the basis of our marketing strategy. Back in 2000, the company underwent a strategic planning and a very in-depth analysis of the situation, of the market situation and of the, I would say, international market situation, because at the very beginning, the company was very, very predominant in the export markets. Let me tell you a little bit about the company. Brome Lake Ducks is a company which was founded in 1912. So today, we're actually over 100 years old. I'm sure many of you didn't know that. And the company specializes in the production, the growing and the production and the processing of Peking duck. We use a vertical integrated model. In other words, we start with parent stock, which egg layers. We collect the eggs. We have our own hatchery. From the hatchery, we get our own ducklings for the grower facilities. We have our own growing facilities where we grow our ducks to bring to the slaughterhouse, and it is our own slaughterhouse. So we control our processing from the very beginning all the way to the marketing. It's not different than the other duck producers which are in North America, but it gives us a difference because if everybody works in a vertically integrated model, it means that everybody produces a different product. I'm sure it's not a surprise for everybody here in the room. Peking duck is not native of Canada or North America. It was introduced in North America, actually, in New York, at the end of the 19th century, so in the 1800s, and slowly developed to a certain volume over the years, but mainly to satisfy a natural demand in Asian communities. As the Asian communities grew in North America, what happened is that they're big consumers of Peking duck. So as the Asian communities grew, the demand of Peking duck grew in North America. So a lot of farmers embarked into growing Peking ducks in North America, and mostly backyard farmers, which after developed into industrial farmers. Brome Lake is one of the original ones in 1912 in Canada. It's actually the oldest duck farm in Canada, and we're proud to say that even today, our head office is at the original site of the farm. The growth was very modest, and it was mainly demand-driven. In other words, there was not much marketing, not much promotion, not much publicity done. I'm sure a lot of you are not even familiar that the duck is a meat now that you can find in the retailers, especially not in the States, and especially not yet in Western Canada. We have worked our magic in the eastern, particularly Quebec, Ontario, and now we're working our way west. Of course, at the very beginning, because we were just focusing on one market segment, which is the Asian communities, the only growth that we could have sustained was if we would expand our territory. In other words, we started selling duck to the Asian communities in Quebec, but that really satisfied that very fast. In order to grow our production, we had to go further and further away. After 90 years, our production went from 25,000 ducks a year to about close to 1 million ducks a year by 1995. And our markets were all the way North America, Japan, Mexico, United States, of course. We used to sell to California, to Florida. We used to be really spread out. One thing that I started with the company back in 2000, and one thing that I saw back in 2000, that the company didn't have much of a marketing plan. That's not surprising. Most of the North American small and medium-sized companies don't work with marketing plans. They're just there and they just ad-lib on a daily basis. But they had a lot of knowledge, what we call the savoir-faire of 100 years, on the breed, on the farming techniques, and on the quality of the products. And this was definitely marketable, and I saw a really potential there. Another thing was the brand recognition. We had a very strong brand when I started with the company in 2000, mainly because of the 100 years history, but also because in the 90s in Quebec, the Eastern Township, which is our region, tourism board, had, with the help of the sponsorship programs which were there available in those days, which were a little bit more liberal, organized what they call the duck festivals in our area, which became very well known. Now, the objective of the tourism office was to attract people during the season, during the fall season, because it was a very, very slow season at the time for tourism. However, in the Laurentians, because of the change of the colors, a lot of people used to go there, and we had nobody coming to the Eastern Townships. So they couldn't call it the change of the leaves, the colors, but it did attach the festival to the duck. And that, for us, was a big opportunity because that really increased our recognition and our brand awareness. So when I started with the company, the first thing was to make a really in-depth analysis of the situation. What I did, the first thing I did, I took all the clients and all the client base and we separated in what we call market segments. And these are the market segments which we were looking at. Asian, we grouped all the Asian customers and all the Asian sector together, the retail, the food service, and the industrial. What we found out at the time, the 85% of our business came from the Asian sector. So it was very concentrated at that time. 5% from the retail, 8% from the food service. A lot of restaurateurs, a lot of chefs were happy to serve duck in their restaurants, and Brome Lake was a predominant brand at that time. And 2% in the industrial ones, the transformers. Also, the other statistics that was very important at the time, in 1999, 55% of all our production was actually sold outside of Canada. 20% was sold only in Quebec. It's understandable because Quebec had the smallest Asian population. And 25% in the other provinces. The analysis also led us to some conclusions. The company situation in 2000 was that we were facing an Asian market which was very price sensitive, so competitivity was very high. We were very weak in the domestic market. Being weak in the domestic market meant, as a meat producer, very vulnerable. Vulnerable because we are living it today, for example, with the avian influenza in British Columbia. Most of the export markets are closed now. So if 55% of your business is done in export markets, if something like that happens, you can understand that we're very vulnerable. and the ever increasing costs of freight because of the fuel costs and because of the energy costs and the currency exchange were also factors which made us very vulnerable with respect to having 55% of our product being exported. And we also did the analysis of the strengths and weaknesses. This is just typical of the brand, the product, the promotion, the marketing thing. So for the first time, the company we actually wrote it, a marketing plan, back in 2000. Didn't work. Our marketing plan had a long-term vision. Diversification was based on diversification of the markets. The long-term vision was that, okay, we are now, the only growth now is if we increase our market territorial-wise, and this just increases the cost of sales because of the transports, because of all the other factors we come and impact that. And then we say, well, let's see, where are we in Canada? In Canada, we only had a very small percentage of our sales in Canada. And we only were selling to the Asian communities. The Asian communities represented less than 10% of the total population of Canada. So I said, what happens to the other 90%? Why don't they eat duck? So we started looking at the retail and the food service markets more basically. And we gave ourselves a mission of being the Canadian leader in the processing of duck and to develop the retail market and food service market and achieve our growth by developing this market. It was very, very ambitious in that case. How did we do this? Of course, by innovation, by introducing new products to the market. We did market research to understand better the consumer and to overcome the obstacles. The obstacles came mostly from the distribution network. The distribution network, there was lack of history, lack of sales when you go into a new market. You go see your retailers, you go see your food service distributors. They will analyze your product according to the sales history they have in their company. There is no sales history. How do you analyze it? How do you interest the company to get your product in and put it on the shelves? This was a big handicap. We had to really overcome this. I'll show you how we did it. The first thing we did is that we commissioned a study towards the consumers and in the food service industry. Now, when we went to the food service industry and we started interviewing the big players, the chefs and the restaurant owners, they said, we'll gladly put duck on the menu. The biggest problem is that when we put it on the menu, it doesn't sell. The consumer is not aware of duck and therefore will not try it. This was back in 2000. When we went to the retail market told us, and the consumer, because we really did some focus groups with consumers, told us that duck is wild meat. It's not, it's fatty, it's not healthy, it's tough, it's hard to cook. We don't know what to do with it. So it was very, very, very bad perceptions with respect to duck. So we had very big challenges ahead of us. But we knew one thing, the consumer was key. We had to educate the consumer because that was the answer to have more restaurateurs put ducks on their menus and more retailers put ducks on their shelves. So by doing that, what we did, first of all, we got the stores interested. And to do that, we had to invest a lot of money. We decided to invest initially into the retail market. Why? Because that's the first access we have to the consumer. Food service, it's very hard to go directly to the consumer. The user is actually the chef or the professional. In the stores, we were able to do in-store demos. For the first time, we were having consumers tasting our product. And for the first time, they used to taste the product and buy it because it was really beyond their expectations. Then we started promoting with flyers and all the tools that were available to us. But a lot of focus was on training and coaching of the whole distribution line. And this is what created the demand. The demand was exponential for the first year, okay? And what we say, democratizing duck, in other words, getting duck more to a point where the consumer is able to appreciate it better. Also, throughout the years, we constantly evolved with the offer. We started with the packaging, which was okay when we were selling just to the Asian communities, but when we put it on the shelves, it didn't sell. So we started experimenting. We did some mistakes along the way. And then we started putting our colors, which were more consumer-friendly, packages which were more consumer-friendly. People started recognizing our brand, our logo, and we always were complimented on the way we market our products and the way we package our products. We also started introducing further processed products such as the duck fat, the duck stock, marinated products, the confit legs, and so on. As you can see, our lines evolved throughout the years. This is the latest packaging that you will see in the stores. Of course, we found weaknesses into the distribution system when we go sit down with the buyers that tell us, well, we can sell your product. Once you make them the first delivery, you find out that they cannot sell our product. We have to sell our product. So we had to put together a structure to guarantee some kind of a presence on the field with a sales force. So we put together our own sales force. We're over 14 people now strong in the sales force of Brome Lake Duck, which support activities, demos, trainings, and logistic monitoring, meaning the product is at the right place in the stores and everything like that. I can just go back, when I go back in 2000, the biggest challenge, the small percentage that we saw about the retail sales was actually very seasonal, was Christmas time and Easter. We only used to sell frozen ducks into the retail markets, into the big chains, big names, we won't need to name them. And the biggest challenge for the loyal customers that we used to have was to find the duck under the 20 or 30 turkeys, which used to bury them, because ducks were usually always placed in the same bunker as the turkeys. We also did some push in respect to the mass media with a big marketing campaign. We started back in 2006, and every year now we have been investing into radio and different magazines, email, websites, push emails, and a bunch of different activities, even television, to promote our products and get the consumer knowledgeable about our products. The progress since 2000, thank you. Since 2000, what happened? Well, we created a new demand. We adjusted the business model. Of course, Brome Lake Duck had to change completely, and that was the biggest thing. It's cultural change, completely on their business model, and we adapted the products to satisfy the customers. As you remember, this was the previous slide: 55% exports in 1999. When we started our plan, executing our plan, the exports went down 41%. In 2004. That was the first time in Canada we had a declaration of avian influenza in British Columbia. I don't know if you guys recall that. At that time, we had 41% export market. Let me tell you, that was a catalyst for us. We had production coming out of our ears, and we had to sell it. So we accelerated our business plan, And in 2014, I'm happy to say that over 87% of all our production is sold into Canada at the present time. And only 13% is into the retail markets. But this, like the gentleman from Netherlands told us, is just percentages. What's important to know is that our business in volume has grown 4 times since 2000. The sales segment, which was 85% Asian, 5% retail, 8% HRI, changed drastically. Asian is still a good part of our business, but mainly in Canada. We don't sell to far points anymore. We don't go to California anymore. We don't go to Florida anymore. We are staying mainly in Canada. 30% is our retail market, 20% is our HRI market at the present time, which makes it very healthy for our company. Today we have concerns for sure, concerns with respect to the consumer. I need to read my notes. Consumer, do we still have the right product for the new consumers of today? So we're always changing there, and we're always innovating with respect to product offer. Globalizations, we talked about it all day, about FTA programs, and I mean, North America produces 30 million ducks a year. 30 million ducks a year might seem a lot. It's really nothing. It's less than 200 grams per capita of consumption of duck in North America. And when you say that 80% of that is consumed in Asian communities, the North American consumer doesn't really buy any duck at the present time. So the potential is there. However, European countries like France or like Hungary or like Belgium, they produce 50, 60, 80 million ducks a year. That's more than North American production, even double the North American production. Their market knowledge is much better than ours here in North America with respect to duck. Therefore, their product development is much more advanced. Well, that gives us a warning that we have to really speed up on our development in order to be able to compete, because now we opened up the market, the attraction is there. The other thing is the Asian countries, for example, China, if you think 50,000 is a lot, 50 million, is a lot, China produces 1.4 billion ducks a year. It's a good thing. They consume 85% of that in China. However, 15% is a lot of duck. So the competition, the new competition that's coming to us, we're looking at it more global, and we see it. We see it more and more European ducks on the market here, and especially in the transformed products, and especially in the industrial side, because transformers will go out and source where they can get more, secure sourcing. Distribution is always a challenge, and how are we going to position ourselves into the marketplace? That's going to be a big challenge for us. And the environment. The environment, we are very sensitive to the environment. Being completely integrated, we have to be. The provincial trade is part of our strategy. We want to focus on Canada. We cannot just remain in Quebec if we want to grow as a company and remain competitive. We definitely are looking at the Ontario market. We're looking at the Alberta market and the British Columbia market as our next markets that we're going to work. What we are finding, of course, there are some obstacles, nothing major. There's a lot of differences in the distribution, even though they're the same companies, which we find in Quebec. The same company in Ontario doesn't work the same way, so there is some adaptation there. But we are being very successful there. Where we have some issues now, and we have to overcome that, is that we are seen in the other provinces as almost as an outsider, because we're from Quebec and we want to sell in Ontario or we want to sell in British Columbia. There is strong movements out there with Food Ontario as we have in Quebec with Aliments Quebec, but we do have Food Ontario, for example, which is very, very strong. And retailers, food service operators in that country will favor products coming from Ontario. Same thing in British Columbia. So that's something that, we're saying that we're a Canadian product. Choose us before you go outside of Canada. We have to respect the local producers, but we are different. We have a different products. We're innovative, and we try and sell our product as best we can in those countries. The growth is slower than we had in Quebec, I must admit, but we're adapting ourselves at the present time.
Yeah, why don't we take questions for
Sure.
everybody?